Hooray.
this week. Uh, that was wildly easy to accidentally reread a part, and it took a while to be like, huh, wait a minute.
Like, wow, this really does seem familiar, doesn't
Wow, this is so familiar. Wow.
it?
Um, all right. We're at the top of conversation 17. We're actually getting much closer to the end. We're on page 44 of 66 in the PDF, and I don't know what the last few pages look like. They might not even be readable. I have no idea. I haven't scrolled that far. So anybody want to say anything before we get started?
May we all realize the Buddha's enlightenment.
Through this piece of Hindu writing.
Yes, that's right.
All right. Conversation 17, Threefold Division of Faith. Arjuna said, "What is the state of those who are endowed with faith but disregard the precepts of the Holy Scriptures? Are they in the state of sattva, rajas, or tamas?" Krishna said, "The faith of incarnate one can be of three kinds: sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. Hear about all three. Faith of man corresponds to his essence. Man corresponds to his faith. What man's faith is, so he is. Sattvic people worship the divine. Rajasic people worship beings of demonic nature. Tamasic people worship lower spirits and the dead. Know that they who perform severe ascetic exploits non-prescribed by the Holy Scriptures for the sake of self-admiration and pride, yet are subjected to sexual passions, attachments, and violence, unwise, torturing the elements that correspond their bodies as well as me residing in their bodies. Know that their decisions are demonic. Even so, the food pleasant to all can be of three kinds. Also sacrifice, ascetic exploits, and gifts. Hear from me what about the difference between them. Food that promotes longevity, strength, health, jocundity, and serenity of mood, which is succulent, oily, substantial, and tasty. Such food is dear to the sattvic. Passionate one's hunger for bitter, sour, salty, too spicy, exciting, dry, and burning food, i.e. the food that causes sorrow, suffering, and sickness. Spoiled, tasteless, with bad smell, putrid, cooked of garbage. Unclean food is dear to the tamasic. Why?
Wait, is it spicy or is it flavorless?
It's cooked of garbage.
Oh, well, okay.
Sacrifice performed without any thought about the reward, in accordance with the Holy Scriptures, with firm belief that it is a duty. Such a sacrifice is sattvic. Sacrifice performed with the expectation of reward and for the sake of pleasing oneself, knowing that such a sacrifice originates from rajas. Sacrifice that contradicts the religious precepts performed without feeding the hungry, without sacred words, without charity, without faith. Such a sacrifice is called tamasic. Homage paid to the divine, to Brahmins, to teachers, to sages, purity, simplicity, abstention, non-harming, quote-unquote, the body. Such is the asceticism of the body. Speech causing no dislike, honest, pleasant, and beneficial. Also chanting the holy text. Such is the asceticism of the speech. I have to say, I also like spicy food.
Oh.
And
Just means we worship demons. It's
I
fine.
know.
At least we don't cook with garbage.
I know.
Right.
I don't cook with garbage. No.
I mean, I might.
Didn't read this part, so whoever reads next gets to start at this sentence. 1716.
For me to go?
Sure, Ben.
Clarity of thoughts, lowliness of the mind, control over thoughts, amicability towards everyone, naturalness of life, such is the asceticism of the mind. This threefold asceticism, if performed by steady people endowed with deep faith and without any expectation of reward, is considered sattvic. Asceticism performed for the sake of praise, honor, and glory, as well as asceticism performed with pride, is rajasic in its nature, unsteady, not firm. Asceticism performed under delusion, with self-torture, or with the purpose of destroying someone is tamasic in its nature. The gift, which is given without any thought about the reward, out of duty, at the right time and in the right place, to a worthy person, such a gift is considered sattvic. That which is given with the expectation of repayment or reward, or with grudging, such a gift is called rajasic. A gift given in an inappropriate place at an inappropriate time to unworthy people with disrespect or disregard, such a gift is tamasic. Om Tat Sat is the threefold designation of Brahman in the Vedas. In old time, it was used in performance of sacrifices. Therefore, the knowers of Brahman begin sacrificial acts and acts of self-restraint with the word Om, as it is prescribed by the whole scriptures. When those seeking the liberation perform various sacrifices and purifying acts of self-restraint, restraint or give sattvic gifts, then it is performed with the word Tat. The word Sat is used for designating the true reality and good, as well as righteous acts upatha. The word Sat is also always uttered in sacrificing, self-restraint, and charity, and the actions aimed at these purposes are also designated by the word Sat. And that which is performed without faith, whether it is sacrifice, exploit, or giving, is asat, that is nothing, both here and after death. Thus, in the Upanishads of the Blessed Bhagavad Gita, the science of eternal, the scripture of yoga, says the 17th conversation between Sri Krishna and Arjuna entitled The Threefold Division of Faith.
So contextually, Arjuna's avoiding fighting, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm like, why are y'all talking about this? And I was like, I guess if I was avoiding something, I'd talk about everything to you.
I mean, when you are talking to God, you may as well asking everything that comes to your mind.
Right, like, all right, I got a lot of questions that need answered. I've always wondered about this. Blah 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 blah. All right, Sam.
All right. Conversation 18, Liberation through Renunciation. Arjuna said, I want to know, O powerful one, about the essence of the renunciatory way of life and about renunciation. Krishna said, the abandonment of activity rooted in personal desires is called by sages renunciatory life. One's activity aimed not at the personal profit is called renunciation. Action must be abandoned as evil, say some religious thinkers. Sacrificial acts, charity, and acts of self-restraint must not be abandoned, say others. Hear my judgments about renunciation. O Bharata, renunciation can be of three kinds, O tiger among men. Sacrificial acts, charity, and acts of self-restraint must not be abandoned, but be performed. They purify the reasonable one. Yet these actions, too, must be performed without any attachment to the activity itself, without any expectation of reward, O Partha. Verily, one should not renounce the prescribed actions. Such renunciation originating from delusion is considered tamasic. He who renounces actions out of fear of physical suffering, saying it hurts, performing thus the rajasic renunciation, he does not receive the fruits of such renunciation. He who performs the necessary action, saying it must be done, renouncing at the same time the attachment to the action and to personal gain, such one, O Arjuna, performs sattvic renunciation. The one who is detached, imbued with harmony and purity, reasonable, devoid of doubts, such one does not detest unpleasant action and is not attached to pleasant action. Verily, an embodied person cannot renounce actions completely. Only he who renounced the personal profit renounces truly. Good, bad, and intermediate, such can be the fruit of action for the non detached. But for a sannyasi, there are no fruits. Learn from me, O mighty armed, the 5 causes that give the origin to any action, as they are described in the Sangha. Circumstances, the man himself, other beings, various energy fields, and the divine will, 5 in total. Whatever action one performs by the body, word, or thought, be it righteous or unrighteous, the causes of the action are these 5. Therefore, the unwise who sees himself as the only reason of the action is deluded. But the one who has abandoned such egocentrism, who is free as a consciousness, even when fighting in this world, such one does not kill and does not bind oneself by this. The process of cognition, the object of cognition, and the one who cognizes, these are the 3 causes that give an impulse to the action. The impulse, the action, and the doer are the 3 constituents of the action. In terms of the gunas, the knowledge, the action, and the doer are also considered to be of 3 different kinds. Hear about this from me. The knowledge that sees one indestructible being in all beings, undivided in the separate, know that such knowledge is sattvic. The knowledge which considers numerous diverse beings as separate, know that such knowledge originates from the rajas.
All right. It's going to be Max's turn. And then, Max, I was thinking, if possible, I'd love to hear a response of how, if you guys are seeing connections with Buddhist thought or not. Kind of get some feedback on this. We haven't talked a lot, I guess, while reading, other than to respond to some of the more like, what is going on?
Fair.
So, I don't know if anyone wants to talk about that. But anyway,
I'm at 1822, right?
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Just a second. The knowledge based on the tendency to cling to one separate thing as to the whole. Knowledge unreasonable, narrow, not grasping the real. Such knowledge is called tamasic. A due action performed passionlessly, without any desire of reward and without any attachment to it, is called sattvic. An action performed under the pressure of the desire of carrying it out, with self-admiration or with great effort, such action is called rajasic. An action undertaken under delusion, without consideration of possible negative consequences, for the sake of destruction, harm, or a coarse action, is called tamasic. Unattached to action, devoid of self-admiration, endowed with confidence and determination, same in success and failure, such a doer is called sattvic. Excited, desirous for fruits of his actions, greedy, envious, admiring himself, dishonest, subject to rejoice and sorrow, such a doer is called rajasic. Arrogant, coarse, angry, obstinate, sly, negligent, insidious, dull, sluggish, somber, cowardly, such a doer is called tamasic. Threefold, according to the 3 gunas, is also the distinction of the level of consciousness development and the aspiration. Hear about this, O Dhananajaya. He who discerns what deserves attention and what is not, what ought to be done and what ought not be done, and what ought to be warned of and what ought not to be, what is slavery and what is freedom. He who can differentiate this has a developed consciousness and lives in sattva. He who does not distinguish the right path from the wrong one, what ought to be done from what ought not to be done, he as a consciousness is underdeveloped and lives in rajas. He who lives in ignorance, who takes the wrong path for the right one and goes in wrong direction, he as a consciousness is tamasic, O Partha. An unswerving aspiration that allows one to control the mind, energy, and indriyas, and to be in the state of yoga, such an aspiration is sattvic. But if one directs his aspiration at the true path, at the sexual passion, and at the profit of work, O Arjuna, then such an aspiration, due to the attachment to selfishness is rajasic. An aspiration that does not help to free the unwise from laziness, fear, sorrow, gloominess, such an aspiration is tamasic, O Partha. And now hear about the threefold nature of joy, O best of the Bharatas. About that which brings happiness and allays suffering. The joy which at first is alike poison, and then turns into nectar, is considered sattvic and originating from blissful cognition of the Atman by the consciousness. The joy originating from contacts of the indriyas with earthly objects, which at first is alike nectar, and then turns into poison, such joy is called rajasic.
So many things happening.
Yeah, he's giving a very sort of a slapdash definition of these three things.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
There's the people that are just fucking up all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the rajasic people, and then there's oh no, that was the tamasic people. That's the people that fuck up all the time.
Right.
The rajasic people are the ones that are like trying but don't really get it yet.
Yeah.
And then there's the sattvic people who are just like, point on, way to go.
Way to go, bruh.
Yeah. The tendency to do things in threes is clearly not unique to Buddhism. This is pretty common with the dharmic stuff, no matter really who's talking about it. So this has like a lot of carryover with the three poisons, that kind of a thing. The grasping, aversion, and ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
But this is one good one, one medium one, and one bad one, rather than here's some bad ones. It's this specific part. There's not much you can draw connections to.
Right.
Because Buddhism doesn't really deal with the gunas.
Mm-hmm.
That said, there are still plenty of like correlations just in terms of what is lauded versus what is seen as ignorant, or
Right.
But yeah, I don't see much more than that to speak on. Does anyone else have ideas? No. All right.
No. I think that if you're like studying Buddhism to any extent, you like you said, as far as what's lauded and not, you have a lot of parallels of be this way, kind of try not to be that way.
Right. I mean, they're all sort of pointing in this same general direction of just like, hey, y'all, be mindful of what you're doing. Don't just give in to sense pleasures or like delusions and stuff. Like, wrap it up, guys. Get it together. It's time to go. But the different words they use and the different paths they suggest and, shitting on each other. It's interesting to watch them as they try and navigate that tightrope walk of like, I'm the best.
No.
I mean, like, that's good too, but really you should be listening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I am in no way excluding Buddhism from this. They do this shit all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I was just wanting to see if there were any comments going on in people's brains.
It's just a ringtone.
Ding, ding, ding,
Over and over.
ding.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that comes back around to Des. Des is started fiddling with something, and now I gotta put it back before I lose it. Okay. The joy which is delusive from the begging until end, originating from rejection of the Atman against the background of carelessness and laziness. Such joy is tamasic. There is no being, either here on earth or among gods, which is free from the three gunas born in the world of Prakriti. The duties of Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras are distributed in accordance with their nature among the gunas, O conqueror of enemies. Clarity, self-control, self-restraint, honesty, all forgiveness, simplicity, wisdom, use of one's own knowledge for the good of others, knowledge about the divine, such is the duty of a Brahmin born of his own nature. Valor, grandeur, firmness, agility, inability to flee from the battle, generosity, the nature of a ruler, such is the duty of a Kshatriya, born of his own nature. Tillage, cattle rearing, trade are the duties of a Vaishya, born of his own nature. Man goes to perfection by performing his duty with diligence. Hear how man, diligently performing his duty, comes to perfection. By performing his duty and worshipping through this the one by whose will all beings come into existence and who pervades everything, man attains perfection. It is better to perform one's own duties, even if they are insignificant, than the duties of others, even if they are grand. By performing duties that follow from his own nature, man does not commit sin. The preordained destiny, even if it contains unpleasant, must not be abandoned. Verily, all risky undertakings are wrapped in errors as fire in smoke, O Kantia. Weirdly enough, I'm reading this. Sorry, just to pause for a second. And I'm like, this reminds me of Confucianism. Sorry, anyway.
That's fair.
Like, do your own job, bruh, and just love it.
Right.
Anyway, he who has consciousness is free and omnipresent, who recognizes the Atman, who has no worldly desires. He attains through the path of renunciation the highest perfection and the freedom from the fetters of his destiny. How the one who has attained perfection comes to Brahman, to the highest state of wisdom, hear from me in brief, O Kantia. With the completely purified consciousness, overcame oneself by steadfastness, detached from all the outer, cast off passion and enmity, living secludedly, abstinent, subdued in his speech, body and mind being constantly in meditation, passionless, devoid of egoism, violence, arrogance, sexual passion, anger, greed, imbued with peace and selflessness. Such a person deserves to become Brahman. Having achieved the eternity in emergence with Brahman, he attains the highest love for me. By love he cognizes me in my essence, who I am and what I am in reality. Having cognized me thus in my innermost essence, he submerges into my beingness.
Yeah.
All right. Though being engaged in activity ordained for him, but worshipping me, he attains with my help the eternal imperishable abode. Renouncing in thoughts all selfishness and action, having merged the consciousness with me, being aware about me as of your refuge, think about me constantly. Thinking about me, you will overcome all obstacles with my help. But if you, out of pride, you decide not to live like this, then you will lose everything. If immersed into egoism, you say, I don't want to fight, such your decision will be in vain, for Prakriti will coerce you. O Kaunteya, bound by your own karma, which is created by your own nature, you will do against your will what you in delusion do not want to do. Ishvara resides in the heart of all beings, O Arjuna, and by the power of his Maya he makes all beings to revolve as on a potter's machine. Seek refuge in him with all your being. By his grace will you attain the supreme peace, the imperishable abode. Thus I have revealed to you the wisdom more secret than the secret itself. Reflect on it thoroughly and then do as you wish. Hear again from me my highest and innermost word. You are loved by me and therefore receive this boon from me. Think always about me. Love me, sacrifice yourself for my sake, seek refuge only in me, and you will come to me. You are dear to me, and I trust you. Having abandoned all other paths, go only to me for salvation. Do not grieve, I will free you from all your fetters. Never tell about this to the one who is not disposed to exploits and is not endowed with love. Also, do not tell to those who do not want to hear or who slander me. But he who reveals this highest truth to those who love me, realizing thus his devotional love for me, he will undoubtedly come to me. And there will be no one among men performing more valuable service than he does. And there will be no one on the earth dearer to me than he is. He who will study this holy conversation of ours will learn to worship me by the sacrifice of wisdom. Such is my thought. If man endowed with faith just listens to this conversation with homage, he will be ridding himself of evil and will attain the pure worlds of the virtues. Have you listened to all this with undistracted attention? Has your delusion born of ignorance been destroyed, O Partha? Arjuna said, my delusion is dispelled. By your grace I gained the knowledge. I am firm. My doubts went away. I will do as you said. Sanjaya said, thrilled, I was hearing this wonderful conversation between Vasudeva and Grand Soul Partha. By the grace of Vyasa, I heard about the secret and highest yoga from the Lord of Yoga, Ishvara himself, speaking before my eyes. O Raja, recalling this holy dialogue of Keshava and Arjuna, I am thrilled once again and again. Recalling this most wonderful form of Krishna, I rejoice again and again. Wherever there is Krishna, the Lord of Yoga, wherever there is warrior Partha, there is well-being, victory, and happiness are assured. This is my opinion. Thus, in the Upanishads of the Blessed Bhagavad Gita, the science of eternal, the scripture of yoga, says the 18th conversation between Shri Krishna and Arjuna entitled Liberation Through Renunciation. Thus ends the Bhagavad Gita.
We did it!
We did it!
Yay! All right. I'm gonna scroll for this for just to look at it real quick. Commentaries. Huh. Some nice information included in this PDF. Some not poetic information. You can read it like average writing today. Let's see. Ethical aspects of Krishna's teachings. Here we go. 3 components. A man's attitude toward people, all other living beings, and toward the entire environment. Yep, I think that's true. Attitude towards God, and the attitude towards one's own path to the perfection. Yeah, that summarizes that pretty well. All right. Any commentary, guys? We did it. I'm proud of us.
Are we enlightened, lads?
I think we did it. We're Hindu now.
We did it.
Here's the bibliography.
One of those parts that are, I find, very heavily steeped in Vedic culture, so may not be very understandable or approachable by Western understanding or Western mind, really.
Yeah. I think if you go in with an open mind, there is some interesting stuff to take from the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, it's got lots of good stuff in it. You just need to like contextualize it, and
Yeah, keeping the context in mind is absolutely key. I think that's even important if you're reading things you think are part of quote unquote your faith. Like, you know, if you're someone who pursues Buddhism and Buddhist thought as part of your practice, and even doing that, I think it's really important to contextualize some of your readings and your thoughts. I don't think that goes away just because you're suddenly within quote unquote your own realm. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, if anything, the duty of diligence is higher.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Because you're more likely to absorb it.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, any thoughts? Hi, Sam.
No.
No?
No.
I like the Bhagavad Gita. I'm glad we read it. It was fun.
I do enjoy it. I've read it before. I find myself blanking through most of.
I think it's more fun to read with friends.
Yes.
Because there's just so
Everything's
much
more
going
fun to
on.
read with friends.
This is true. Um,